A human remained at the side of the alien queen's daughter after she returned. Elira's ship, the Luminous Dawn, drifted closer to Zyrathia's homeworld, its engines whispering softly after the long journey from the human colonies. She sat in the observation deck, staring at the familiar blue-green hues of her planet, yet feeling strangely distant. The journey back had been long, filled with diplomatic talks, inspections, and negotiations, but something had made it different this time. Something had changed. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. The door slid open, and Captain Alex Wren stepped in, his boots making almost no sound on the polished floor. He was tall, with sharp, attentive eyes that missed nothing. Despite his human form and comparatively frail build, Elira had grown to trust him more than anyone else in the alien court, and she knew he would be the first to notice any danger. "You've been quiet," Alex said gently, his voice carrying a calm authority that always seemed to settle her nerves. "The sensors show everything in order, nothing unusual in the approaching sectors." Elira nodded without speaking. She had seen enough diplomatic missions and court intrigues to know that appearances could be deceiving. Yet Alex's presence made the world feel safer, like a tether to reason amidst the sea of uncertainty that surrounded her. "You've been quiet for days," Alex said again, stepping closer. "Talk to me. This distance isn't good for you or for the ship." Elira sighed, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. She finally allowed herself to voice what had been pressing on her mind. "It feels different, Alex. Coming home, I thought it would feel comforting, but it feels tense. I can feel eyes watching, waiting for me to make a mistake." Alex considered her words, then nodded slowly. "The court is always like that, but you're not alone, not anymore. And no one will see you fail as long as we stay vigilant. Humans are good at seeing things others miss." Her lips curved in a faint smile, appreciation flickering in her alien eyes. Elira had seen humans in action before, but Alex's combination of bravery, intelligence, and compassion made him exceptional. Unlike many of her alien advisors, he never sought personal gain, never measured loyalty in terms of power. He only wanted what was right. The planet's surface drew closer. Elira could see the sprawling capital, with its towering crystal spires and lush gardens. It was magnificent, a testament to centuries of Zyrathian civilization, yet it also reminded her of the burdens she carried. Her return wasn't merely ceremonial. She was expected to take her place as a central figure in the Empire's delicate political balance. "Landfall is approaching," Alex said, moving to the controls. "We should prepare for reception protocols." Elira nodded again, but her gaze lingered on the city below. She had returned to a world that had changed in her absence, and the people she once knew now seemed like shadows she could not quite reach. It was strange to feel so alien in the place that was supposed to be home. The ship descended slowly, guided by Alex's careful hand and the advanced navigation systems. As they passed through the planet's atmosphere, Elira felt a subtle vibration beneath her feet, a reminder that even the most advanced technology was still bound by physics and circumstance. The landing platform appeared below, surrounded by ceremonial drones and a small gathering of officials. Once the ship touched down, the doors opened with a soft hiss. Elira stepped out first, her presence commanding, yet restrained by the humility she had learned over years of training. Alex followed closely, his eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of threat. He noted the glances of alien officials who whispered behind their hands, and a few who tried too obviously to mask curiosity or suspicion. Elira's gaze met her mother, the alien queen, who stood with regal poise at the head of the platform. Her golden armor shimmered under the sunlight, and her eyes held a mixture of pride, concern, and calculation. Elira walked forward, her steps deliberate. She knew that in this world, appearances mattered as much as truth. "My daughter," the queen said softly, her voice carrying across the platform, "you have returned safely." Elira bowed slightly, a gesture of respect and recognition. "Yes, mother, I have returned." The queen's gaze flicked to Alex. "And your human companion." Alex bowed his head politely. "At your service, your majesty." The queen studied him for a long moment, then inclined her head slightly. "You may accompany her, but remember, your presence here is delicate. Watch carefully." Alex simply nodded, understanding the unspoken weight of her words. For humans, subtlety was a skill often underestimated, but Alex had mastered it well. He had learned to read not just words, but intent, tone, and expression, a vital skill in a world where a single misstep could mean political disaster. Elira and Alex moved through the crowd toward the palace. Elira noticed the subtle changes in architecture and the bustling activity of her people. Everything was vibrant, yet she could sense a tension underneath, a fragile balance that had been disturbed while she was away. As they approached the grand gates, one of the palace aides hurried over, bowing low. "Princess Elira, the council awaits your presence. They have matters of importance to discuss regarding your return." Elira exchanged a glance with Alex. He gave a small, reassuring nod. Together, they entered the palace, the walls echoing softly with the sound of their footsteps. The council chamber was enormous, circular, with a transparent ceiling that revealed the sky above. The members of the council stood as Elira entered, their expressions neutral, though some eyes betrayed curiosity or thinly veiled suspicion. She took her place at the head of the chamber, Alex just behind her. The council began discussing matters of diplomacy, trade, and security. Elira listened carefully, her mind analyzing every word, every hesitation, every tone. She realized that much had changed in her absence. Some members were more cautious, others more ambitious, and a few seemed openly skeptical of her decisions. One counselor, a tall, thin alien with shimmering blue scales, leaned forward. "Princess Elira, your journey to the human worlds has yielded interesting results. How do you propose we integrate their technologies into our defense systems?" Elira spoke with measured confidence. "The humans have shown adaptability and ingenuity. Their systems are not perfect, but they offer unique solutions to problems that we have struggled with for decades. If we combine their strengths with our resources, we can create a defense system unlike any other." A murmur ran through the council. Alex noted it carefully. Some members were intrigued, others resistant. Elira's words had the power to inspire, but they also had the power to provoke jealousy and suspicion. After the session, Elira and Alex walked through the palace gardens. The sunlight filtered through translucent leaves, casting delicate shadows on the ground. Elira allowed herself a moment of reflection, speaking quietly to Alex. "Do you think they will accept these changes?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Alex considered her question. "Change is always difficult, but humans adapt quickly and you adapt quickly. Together we can guide them. People respect courage, clarity, and loyalty. That is something both humans and Zyrathians understand." Elira looked at him, a sense of gratitude swelling in her chest. She had spent her life surrounded by aliens who measured loyalty in power and influence. Alex measured it in something purer: action, care, and moral courage. Later, as evening fell, the palace settled into a quiet rhythm. Elira prepared for rest, but sleep did not come easily. Her thoughts wandered to the journey home, the subtle warning signs she had ignored, and the whispers of discontent she had already noticed among the council. Something was brewing, a storm beneath the calm surface. Alex, standing outside her chamber, kept a vigilant watch. He had noticed subtle irregularities in the security protocols, tiny deviations that could signal sabotage. His human intuition told him that Elira's return had attracted more attention than anyone had admitted. He stepped quietly to the communication panel, sending a discreet alert to the palace's internal security. Nothing could be left to chance. Elira's life, the stability of the Zyrathian court, and the fragile alliance between humans and aliens depended on vigilance. As the night deepened, Elira finally closed her eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her. Alex remained outside, silent and alert. He had promised to stay by her side, not out of obligation, but out of respect for her courage and trust in humanity's potential. And in that quiet moment, the universe outside seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the next move in a game that stretched across stars and civilizations. The human had remained at her side, and for Elira that simple fact was the anchor she needed. The morning light spilled into the palace chambers, painting everything in warm gold. Elira sat at the edge of her bed, staring at the soft glow filtering through the translucent walls. The city outside buzzed with life, but inside the palace felt unusually still. The silence was heavy, almost weighting. She could feel it pressing against her thoughts, reminding her that her return was not just a homecoming, it was a test. Alex entered quietly, as he always did, moving without making a sound. He carried a small datapad with reports from the night's security checks. His expression was calm, but Elira had learned to read the subtle tension in his eyes. Something was on his mind. Anything unusual? She asked softly, breaking the silence. Alex shook his head. Nothing obvious. The palace systems are stable. No intrusions detected overnight. He paused, then added, but subtle irregularities remain. Minor shifts in surveillance schedules, changes in patrol routes. Nothing dangerous by itself, but enough to raise concern. Elira frowned. You think someone is planning something? Alex nodded slowly. I cannot be certain, but the signs point to someone watching us, testing boundaries. Not all threats are immediate. Some wait for the right moment. She let out a quiet sigh. Elira had returned expecting a peaceful reunion with her home world, but reality was proving far more complicated. The court was a place of endless observation, where whispers carried weight and small gestures could turn into political weapons. As they moved through the palace corridors, Elira noticed the subtle shifts in behavior. Servants and attendants glanced quickly at her, their expressions polite but distant. Council members who had once welcomed her with smiles now spoke formally, their words measured, as though each syllable was weighed for hidden meaning. It was a delicate dance, one she had learned long ago, yet the tension was sharper than she remembered. During breakfast, she met with several council members. Discussions revolved around trade negotiations with distant star systems, integration of human technology, and defense enhancements. Elira listened carefully, but her mind often wandered, observing details others overlooked. The way a counselor's hand twitched slightly when certain words were spoken. The way eyes darted toward the human at her side. You have returned to us safely, Princess, said one counselor, a tall, silver-scaled alien named Torvash. His voice was smooth, but his eyes were sharp. We trust your journey provided insight into human strategy and ingenuity. What lessons do you bring? Elira spoke with careful clarity. Humans are adaptive, capable of rapid innovation under pressure. Their solutions are not perfect, but they offer perspective we have not fully considered. We can combine our knowledge with theirs to create new systems of defense and trade. Torvash nodded slowly, but Elira could sense the skepticism behind the gesture. Others murmured agreement, though some words carried the hint of doubt. She realized quickly that her association with a human companion was drawing attention, and not all of it was favorable. Later, in the private gardens of the palace, Elira and Alex walked among the softly glowing plants. The air was warm, scented with alien flora that shimmered under the sunlight. The quiet of the garden offered a temporary reprieve from the political tension inside the palace. You notice it too, don't you? Elira asked, breaking the silence. The subtle glances, the quiet whispers, not everyone is happy to see me back and with you. Alex's expression remained calm. I do. Some see humans as a curiosity, others as a threat. But our role is not to conform to their fears. It is to act wisely, to show value through action. She stopped and looked at him, admiration flickering in her eyes. You always know what to say. It calms me. I have learned from observation, Alex replied. Humans can survive in difficult circumstances because they notice what others ignore and they act when it matters most. You already know this instinctively, Princess. I just help remind you. Elira smiled softly. For the first time since her return, she felt a small measure of reassurance. If Alex could see the dangers lurking, she trusted that together they could face them. The following day brought an unexpected message from the Intelligence Division. A confidential briefing was scheduled for Elira and Alex alone. They entered a secure chamber, walls glowing softly with information displays. A holographic image of the intelligence chief appeared, his multi-limbed form bowing slightly. Princess Elira, Captain Alex, he began. We have detected unusual signals originating from the docking bays where incoming trade vessels arrive. Nothing concrete yet, but patterns suggest surveillance activity that should not be possible. Someone may be monitoring your movements more closely than anticipated. Elira frowned. Could it be a standard security check? The intelligence chief shook his head. Unlikely. These signals are targeted, precise, and covert. Someone with access to internal systems is orchestrating them. Alex's eyes narrowed slightly. Internal access? That suggests someone within the palace or with direct connections to your council. Exactly, the chief said. We recommend caution. It may be early, but the pattern indicates a potential conspiracy. Monitor interactions closely and report any irregularity immediately. Elira's mind raced. The palace she had returned to, the place she thought would welcome her safely, was more dangerous than she had imagined. And yet, Alex's presence gave her confidence. He had a unique perspective, able to see beyond protocol and detect subtle threats that others missed. Over the next few days, Elira's routine became a careful balance of diplomacy and vigilance. She attended council meetings, hosted trade discussions, and engaged with palace staff, all while Alex quietly observed. His notes and subtle warnings guided her, keeping her steps measured and safe. One afternoon, while reviewing defense schematics, Elira noticed a small discrepancy. A segment of the security grid had been altered without explanation. She called Alex over. "Do you see this?" she asked, pointing to the data. Alex examined the readouts, frowning slightly. "Yes, someone modified this routing. It's subtle, but it could create a blind spot in the event of an attack." Elira felt a chill run down her spine. "Do you think it's intentional?" Alex nodded. "I do, and whoever did this is careful. They are testing boundaries, looking for weaknesses. We need to be prepared." Together, they devised a plan to correct the alteration and reinforce the system. Alex suggested using a combination of human tactics and Zyrathian protocols, creating a hybrid solution that would make the system stronger than before. Elira implemented the changes, impressed by the ingenuity and adaptability Alex brought to the process. That evening, as the twin moons rose above the palace, Elira reflected on the day's events. She realized that her return was not simply a homecoming. It was the beginning of a challenge she had not anticipated. Allies could be foes, silence could hide plots, and appearances could mislead even the most cautious observer. Alex found her in the observation chamber, looking out at the moons. "You've handled this well," he said. "The council and staff may doubt, but your judgment has been precise. You've adapted quickly." Elira sighed, a mixture of relief and lingering concern. "I am beginning to understand how fragile our world is beneath the surface. I thought my journey was the challenge, but perhaps coming home is the greater test." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "It is not just a test. It is an opportunity. You have the knowledge from your journey, and humans have skills that complement ours. Together, we can guide what comes next." The next day brought the first overt sign of trouble. A message arrived, encrypted and marked for Elira alone. She accessed it carefully, her eyes scanning the text. The message was simple but chilling: "We are watching." Do not trust the obvious. Elira's pulse quickened. She knew immediately that this was no ordinary warning. Someone had anticipated her movements, knew her routines, and was daring her to respond. She glanced at Alex. "They know," she said quietly. "Someone is watching everything. And they are testing me." Alex's expression was steady. "Then we must act wisely, observe, gather information, and remain calm. Panic will only reveal our weaknesses." Over the following days, Elira and Alex began to move like shadows within the palace. They noted subtle changes, quiet conversations, and unexplained absences. Elira observed the council carefully, while Alex coordinated with security discreetly, ensuring that no threat went unnoticed. Through it all, Elira felt a growing bond with her human companion. His courage, insight, and unwavering loyalty were remarkable, especially in a world that constantly judged her every move. She began to realize that humanity brought something unique to the Zyrathian court: perspective, ingenuity, and moral courage. One evening, as Elira prepared for rest, Alex entered with a small, carefully concealed device. "I have been tracking the unusual signals," he said. "There is a pattern. Whoever is behind this is methodical. We can predict their next move if we stay vigilant." Elira nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. "I do not know what I would do without you, Alex. You see what others do not, and you act when it matters." Alex offered a small, reassuring smile. "That is why I remain at your side, not just because I must, but because I choose to. Humanity has a role here, and I intend to prove it." As they stood together in the soft light of the chamber, the stars outside shimmered like distant beacons. Elira understood that her journey home was only the beginning. The court held dangers she could not yet fully see, and challenges would come that required more than courage. They required trust, wisdom, and unity. And in that moment, she knew she was not alone. A human had remained at her side, watching, thinking, and protecting. A human who had shown her that even in a world full of uncertainty, ingenuity and loyalty could create hope. The days ahead would be filled with tests and intrigue, but Elira felt ready. With Alex's guidance, she would navigate the complexities of her return, face the hidden threats within the court, and prove that even in a galaxy of stars and civilizations, humans could make a difference. And as the palace settled into the quiet of night, Elira and Alex looked toward the future, ready for whatever lay ahead. The palace corridors were alive with activity, though a tense undercurrent ran through every step and whisper. Elira moved carefully, flanked by Alex, who scanned every detail with the precision of a seasoned observer. She had grown accustomed to the watchful eyes and subtle glances that accompanied her every movement, yet the knowledge that someone had already tried to test her patience and alertness made each step feel heavier. "Stay close," Alex murmured. "The patterns we detected are becoming more frequent. Whoever is behind this is boldening their actions." Elira nodded, her mind racing. She had anticipated political tension, suspicion from counselors, perhaps even jealousy over her human companion. But the deliberate targeting of her movements indicated something far more dangerous. The palace, once a place of security and familiarity, now felt like a labyrinth filled with hidden eyes and silent threats. The first clear sign came that afternoon. Elira had convened a private meeting with the chief engineer of the palace security systems to review the modifications Alex had recommended. As they discussed schematics and defensive protocols, a sudden alarm sounded, echoing sharply through the chamber. Lights flickered briefly and the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from the corridors. Alex was immediately at her side, his movements fluid and precise. "Stay here," he instructed quietly. "Do not panic." But Elira would not remain idle. She had learned from him that courage was often as important as caution. Together, they moved toward the source of the alarm, their senses attuned to subtle signs of danger. The corridors seemed normal at first, but then Alex noticed the slight shimmer of a cloaked figure retreating around a corner. "There," he whispered, pointing. Elira focused and saw the faint outline just before it vanished. "Someone is inside the palace attempting to breach security." Her pulse quickened. The warning from the intelligence chief and the encrypted message now made sense. The intruder had waited for the perfect moment. Elira and Alex moved with calm urgency, following the trail with skill and precision. Their steps were silent, almost in harmony with one another, a testament to the trust they had built during the past days. The intruder had underestimated Alex's human intuition. While the palace's automated defenses had been triggered, they had failed to anticipate a simple, logical approach, tracing patterns in the intruder's path, predicting likely escape routes. Elira watched in quiet admiration as Alex led her along corridors that twisted like a maze, each turn calculated, each movement purposeful. Finally, they cornered the intruder near a maintenance hatch. The figure froze, realizing it had been outmaneuvered. Elira stepped forward, her voice steady and commanding. "You are discovered. Surrender now and no harm will come to you." The figure hesitated, then dropped a small device at their feet, signaling compliance. Alex quickly secured the intruder, disabling the device and ensuring it could not send any signals. Elira inspected the device and realized it was a surveillance tool, likely intended to report her every movement to someone within the palace or perhaps a rival faction. "This confirms our suspicions," Alex said, his eyes scanning the corridors for any additional threats. "Someone is monitoring the palace and coordinating actions against us. We need to remain vigilant." Elira nodded. Her trust in Alex was absolute, but she realized that even his skill and foresight could not prevent every challenge. They would need allies, those who could understand the value of human intuition and courage. She resolved to carefully select trusted advisors, people who could work with them to protect the palace and ensure the safety of the empire. In the days that followed, Elira and Alex became almost inseparable, moving through the palace like shadows. They monitored suspicious behavior, analyzed reports, and implemented new defensive measures. Each day revealed more evidence of the conspiracy. A counselor who frequently requested unscheduled meetings, a servant who altered patrol patterns without explanation, subtle changes in the security systems. The signs were everywhere, but the conspirators were cautious, leaving no evidence that could be traced easily. Despite the tension, Elira found moments of quiet reflection. She would stand in the palace gardens, watching alien plants shimmer under artificial lights, or look out at the twin moons rising above the city, their soft glow calming her racing thoughts. Alex would sometimes join her, speaking quietly about human strategies, philosophy, or simple observations of the stars. His calm presence grounded her, giving her strength to face the challenges ahead. One evening, as they reviewed reports from recent surveillance, Alex noticed a troubling pattern. "These attempts are becoming coordinated," he said. "They are testing response times, measuring our reactions. The next move may be direct, not subtle." Elira felt a chill at his words. "They will try to harm me," she said quietly, "or destabilize the council to remove me from influence." Alex shook his head slightly. "Perhaps, but they underestimate you. They underestimate humanity, too. You have insight they cannot anticipate, and humans have abilities they ignore. That combination is dangerous to them. That is our advantage." The next morning, the palace was filled with unusual tension. Elira received a formal summons from the queen herself. As she entered the royal chambers, she noticed Alex standing just behind her, ready to act if needed. The queen regarded her daughter carefully, her expression composed but not without concern. "My daughter," the queen began, "it appears that your return has stirred unrest. I have been informed of breaches, unusual activity, and devices placed for surveillance. I trust your companion has assisted you in uncovering these threats." Elira nodded. "Yes, mother. Alex's observations and actions have prevented potential harm. But these attempts are deliberate. Whoever is behind them is patient and methodical. They are testing both the palace and my judgment." The queen's gaze softened slightly. "Then you understand the gravity of your position. You are not just a visitor returning from afar. You are a central figure in maintaining stability, and you have chosen to trust a human in this delicate matter." Elira's voice was firm. "I trust him because he has proven himself. His insight, courage, and loyalty are unparalleled. We will work together to protect the palace and uncover the conspirators." The queen studied her daughter for a long moment, then inclined her head. "Very well. Proceed with caution, but proceed with confidence. I see that your judgment is sound." As Elira left the royal chambers, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenge was not merely to survive the intrigue within the palace, but to assert her influence, to demonstrate that intelligence, courage, and loyalty could overcome deception. Later that day, a sudden commotion erupted in the central hall. A group of palace attendants had discovered another surveillance device, hidden in a location carefully chosen to avoid routine checks. Elira and Alex quickly assessed the situation. "This confirms it," Alex said quietly. "They are escalating. The conspirators are boldening their actions. They want to provoke a reaction." Elira moved decisively. She summoned trusted members of the palace security and began a methodical investigation, combining Xirathian procedures with Alex's human strategies. Together, they traced patterns, cross-referenced personnel movements, and identified suspicious behavior that others had overlooked. Through careful observation and analysis, they narrowed the suspects to a small group of individuals with access to sensitive information. Elira realized that confronting them directly would be risky. A misstep could provoke open rebellion or loss of support among the council. Instead, she devised a subtle plan. She would create a situation where the conspirators would reveal themselves without realizing it. With Alex's guidance, she prepared a controlled test, manipulating schedules, surveillance, and communications to draw out the hidden adversaries. The following evening, the plan was set in motion. Elira moved through the palace corridors with quiet confidence, her steps measured. Alex shadowed her closely, his senses alert to the slightest disturbance. As the conspirators made their move, attempting to access a secure chamber, they were met with Elira and Alex waiting calmly. The confrontation was swift but precise. The conspirators, caught off guard by the hybrid strategy combining human intuition and Xirathian procedure, had no choice but to surrender. Elira's calm authority and Alex's calculated actions left them with no room for deception or escape. Once the intruders were secured, Elira addressed the assembled palace staff. "The stability of our empire depends on vigilance, intelligence, and unity. These individuals sought to disrupt that stability, but through careful observation, courage, and collaboration, we have prevented harm. Let this be a reminder that we must value insight, action, and trust above suspicion." The council members present were visibly impressed, and murmurs of approval spread throughout the chamber. Elira could see respect for Alex growing among them, a recognition that humans could contribute in ways previously unimagined. As night fell, Elira and Alex returned to the observation chamber. The city below was quiet, the stars above shimmering like distant diamonds. Elira allowed herself a moment of relief, her shoulders finally relaxing. "You were incredible today," she said softly, turning to him. "Without your guidance, this could have ended very differently." Alex shook his head. "We acted together. Your judgment, courage, and decisiveness were just as important. Humans provide perspective, but you executed the plan." Elira smiled, feeling a deep sense of partnership. For the first time since her return, she felt not just cautious, but empowered. She realized that the challenges ahead, though formidable, could be met with determination, intelligence, and trust. The palace was no longer just a home, it was a proving ground. And in this proving ground, Elira and her human companion had shown that even against hidden threats, courage, ingenuity, and loyalty could prevail. And as the twin moons cast their gentle light over the city, Elira knew that the days ahead would bring new challenges, but with Alex at her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. Together, they had demonstrated that humans, with their unique strengths and unwavering loyalty, could make a difference even in a world of ancient power and subtle intrigue. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the palace, illuminating the towering spires and the crystal gardens. That shimmered like scattered jewels. Elira stood on the balcony, looking out at the city below, her mind racing with thoughts of the recent conspiracy and the capture of the palace infiltrators. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, she knew it was only the beginning. Whoever had orchestrated the attacks had not acted alone. There was a mastermind behind these events, and she needed to find them before they could strike again. Alex joined her quietly, placing a steadying hand on the balcony railing. "We can't rely solely on palace defenses," he said. "The next move will not be obvious. We need to understand who is behind this and why." Elira nodded. "We must leave the palace, Alex. If we only act within these walls, we will be trapped in their web. To find the truth, we need to see the world beyond, observe patterns, and follow the clues they leave behind." Alex studied her carefully, then smiled faintly. "I was hoping you would say that. It will be dangerous, but that is where humans excel. Observation, improvisation, and courage can turn the tide when rules fail." Preparations began immediately. Elira and Alex gathered supplies, communication devices, and carefully reviewed maps of nearby territories where suspicious activity had been detected. They chose a discreet route that avoided heavily trafficked space lanes and patrols, ensuring that they could move without drawing attention. Elira's royal status would normally make discretion difficult, but Alex's planning allowed them to blend in, using minimal identifiers and a combination of human and Zyrathian protocols. Their journey took them through the outskirts of the city and into regions of the planet that were less familiar to Elira. Towering alien forests stretched endlessly, their leaves glowing softly in the twilight. Strange creatures moved quietly among the flora, some barely visible, others luminous and spectacular. Elira marveled at the beauty and danger of it all, yet she never let her guard down. Alex had taught her that in such places, even small distractions could lead to missteps. As they moved deeper into the territory, Elira noticed subtle traces that suggested they were not alone. Small footprints in the glowing soil, traces of energy pulses that indicated surveillance devices, and odd disruptions in the patterns of the native wildlife. Alex observed them carefully, noting each anomaly and teaching Elira to read the environment as he would a complex puzzle. By nightfall, they reached a secluded area near a crystal lake. Elira and Alex set up a small, concealed camp, using local materials and energy shields to remain undetected. The lake's surface reflected the twin moons above, creating an otherworldly scene that was both peaceful and eerie. Elira allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection, thinking about how far she had come since returning to the palace. "You've learned quickly," Alex said quietly, breaking the silence. "Most would be overwhelmed by the unknown, but you are adapting, observing, and making decisions calmly. That is why humans succeed in situations that seem impossible." Elira smiled faintly. "I have a good teacher." The next day, they continued their journey, following subtle clues left by the conspirators. They discovered abandoned camps, discarded equipment, and faint signals that indicated someone had been monitoring them, or perhaps leading them toward a trap. Alex explained that clever adversaries often left patterns that appeared random, using the human and Zyrathian tendency to follow logic against them. Elira quickly learned to read these false trails, distinguishing between deception and genuine information. One afternoon, they encountered a small alien settlement hidden deep within the forest. The inhabitants were wary, observing Elira and Alex from a distance. Alex communicated first, using simple gestures and clear speech to show that they meant no harm. Elira followed his lead, demonstrating respect and understanding of the local culture. Slowly, the aliens approached, recognizing their intentions were peaceful. Through careful questioning, Elira and Alex learned that the settlement had noticed unusual activity in nearby territories. Strange ships, sudden disappearances, and subtle shifts in the natural order of the environment. These details aligned with the patterns they had already observed, confirming that the conspiracy was broader than they had initially suspected. As night fell, they camped near the settlement, sharing stories and knowledge with the locals while remaining vigilant. Elira felt a sense of connection not only to the humans and Zyrathians she worked with, but also to the broader network of civilizations that existed across the galaxy. Each culture, each species, had unique insights and strengths that could be combined to uncover hidden truths. The following day, they discovered an abandoned outpost, hidden within a narrow canyon. Energy signatures suggested recent activity, and Alex immediately recognized that it had been used as a base for surveillance. They carefully explored the facility, avoiding detection and taking note of every detail. Elira's understanding of alien technology improved rapidly under Alex's guidance, and together they pieced together information about the conspirators' movements and intentions. Through the data they recovered, Elira realized that the mastermind was not acting alone. A network of individuals within the Empire, possibly including council members or trusted advisors, had orchestrated the attacks. Their goal was not merely to destabilize her, but to gain power and influence over the Empire itself. "This is bigger than we imagined," Elira said, her voice tense but determined. "We cannot confront them directly yet. We need more information and a plan that ensures the safety of the palace and its people." Alex nodded. "Agreed. But remember, humans excel at using limited resources creatively. We can turn their network against them if we are careful, strategic, and patient." Over the next several days, Elira and Alex moved with precision, gathering intelligence, observing movements, and avoiding detection. They traveled through forests, mountains, and hidden valleys, learning to read the land and the subtle signs of life within it. Elira's trust in Alex grew stronger with each decision, each observation, each successful maneuver. One night, as they camped on a cliff overlooking a valley, Elira spoke quietly. "I never imagined that returning home would lead to this. I thought the palace would be safe, and that my role would be clear. But now I see that the true challenge is understanding the people around me and seeing through deception." Alex nodded. "The galaxy is full of hidden motives. Intelligence and caution are necessary, but courage and trust are equally important. Humans provide perspective, ingenuity, and moral clarity. That combination makes a difference." The following day, they discovered a hidden communications hub used by the conspirators. It was heavily shielded and protected, but Elira and Alex devised a plan to access it without triggering alarms. Using a combination of human ingenuity and Zyrathian technology, they bypassed the security measures, recovering messages and schematics that revealed the locations of several conspirators and their ultimate goal: to seize control of key regions of the Empire and weaken the Queen's authority. "This is it," Elira said, her eyes narrowing. "We now know who they are and what they intend. We must act quickly but carefully. A direct confrontation could be dangerous, but we can use this information to outmaneuver them." Alex smiled faintly. "Exactly. And this is where humans shine, thinking outside the expected patterns, finding solutions when conventional methods fail. We have an advantage they do not anticipate." Over the next few days, Elira and Alex coordinated their next moves. They returned to the palace under cover, bringing the information they had gathered. Elira presented it to trusted allies, carefully explaining the findings without revealing their sources or methods. Alex worked quietly, providing strategic advice and ensuring that all security measures were strengthened. Through careful planning and coordination, Elira and Alex were able to identify the key conspirators, understand their motives, and anticipate their next actions. The palace, once a place of uncertainty and hidden threats, was now fortified not only by technology and guards, but by insight, strategy, and the unique perspective of a human companion. As the sun set over the city, Elira and Alex stood together on the palace balcony. The twin moons rose slowly, casting a serene glow over the landscape. Elira felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had faced danger, uncovered secrets, and outmaneuvered adversaries through intelligence, courage, and trust. "You have shown me the value of partnership," Elira said quietly. "Not just with humans, but in seeing the world differently, thinking differently, and acting with courage. You have changed the way I view my role and my responsibilities." Alex looked out at the horizon, his expression calm but thoughtful. "Humans have always found ways to adapt, survive, and innovate, but it is your leadership, courage, and willingness to act that makes the difference. Together, we can face whatever comes next." Elira nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The conspiracy had been revealed, but the final confrontation still lay ahead. The mastermind, the individual behind the carefully orchestrated attacks, remained at large. And when the time came, Elira would not face them alone. With Alex at her side, she felt ready for the challenge. The journey through alien forests, hidden valleys, and secret settlements had strengthened her resolve, sharpened her insight, and deepened her trust in human ingenuity. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was her confidence. And as the night deepened and the stars sparkled above, Elira knew that the path ahead would demand courage, intelligence, and unity. But with Alex beside her, she was prepared to face the unknown, uncover the truth, and protect her people. Together, they were a force that no hidden adversary could underestimate. The palace was quiet, but a tension hung in the air, heavier than ever before. Elira walked through the corridors with purpose, her steps measured, her mind alert. The information she and Alex had gathered during their journey through the forests, settlements, and hidden valleys had revealed the full scope of the conspiracy. The mastermind was no ordinary counselor. It was an advisor long trusted by the Queen, someone who had used their position to manipulate events, weaken defenses, and test Elira at every step. Alex followed closely, his eyes scanning every detail, noting subtle irregularities in the walls, floor, and corridors. "We must be cautious," he said quietly. "This individual has access and knowledge we cannot predict." A direct confrontation without preparation could be dangerous. Elira nodded. She had grown accustomed to relying on Alex's insight, but she also knew that courage and decisiveness would be required. "Then we prepare," she said firmly. "We will act with strategy, but we will act." No hesitation. Together, they coordinated with trusted palace staff and security forces. Elira carefully selected allies who had proven loyal, observant, and competent during the past weeks. Alex assisted in designing a plan that combined human ingenuity with Zyrathian technology. They would need to anticipate the mastermind's moves, neutralize their influence, and expose the conspiracy without causing panic or chaos within the palace. The first stage of their plan involved securing key areas of the palace. Elira and Alex moved swiftly, inspecting corridors, control rooms, and communication hubs. Each step was deliberate. Elira's presence as the princess commanded authority, while Alex's human perspective allowed them to notice patterns and weak points that others would overlook. Together, they reinforced security measures, ensuring that the mastermind could not act without being detected. Meanwhile, Elira began reaching out to council members who had been cautious but loyal. She shared fragments of information carefully, building alliances and reinforcing trust. Some were skeptical, but Alex's observations and subtle guidance helped her communicate effectively, emphasizing the importance of unity and vigilance. Over the next few days, Elira and Alex monitored the palace closely, waiting for the mastermind to make a move. The tension was palpable. Every unusual action, every sudden absence, and every unexplained signal was analyzed. Alex devised a system of patterns and contingencies, combining Zyrathian security algorithms with human intuition. Elira observed and learned, her skills in strategy and leadership sharpening with each passing moment. Finally, the opportunity presented itself. The mastermind attempted to access a secure chamber, believing they were unobserved. Elira and Alex had anticipated this, and the chamber was surrounded by loyal security forces hidden from view. As the intruder approached, Elira signaled Alex, and they sprang into action with precision. The confrontation was swift and decisive. The mastermind, caught off guard, had no choice but to surrender. Elira stepped forward, her voice calm but commanding. "Your actions have been observed and recorded. You sought to manipulate, destabilize, and harm. It ends here. You will answer for every attempt to undermine the palace and the empire." The mastermind's expression was a mixture of shock and defiance. You cannot control everything," they hissed. "The empire is larger than you and your human companion." Elira cut them off, her voice steady. "It is not just me, and it is not just Alex. Together, we have used knowledge, courage, and strategy to protect our people. Your schemes are exposed, and you will no longer threaten this empire." Alex stepped forward, his presence calm but authoritative. Human ingenuity, when combined with insight and vigilance, can counter even the most carefully laid plans. This is proof that collaboration, observation, and courage are stronger than deceit. The palace staff and loyal council members entered the chamber, witnessing the culmination of weeks of careful strategy. The conspirators were securely detained, and the plans they had crafted to destabilize the empire were rendered useless. Elira and Alex had not only prevented immediate harm, but they had also demonstrated the power of intelligence, foresight, and cooperation across species. With the immediate threat neutralized, Elira turned her attention to the broader implications. She addressed the council and palace staff, her voice firm and inspiring. "Our empire stands because we act with courage, wisdom, and unity. Those who sought to undermine us have failed, not through strength alone, but through observation, strategy, and partnership. We must remember that vigilance, trust, and ingenuity are our greatest defenses." The council members listened attentively, many nodding in agreement. Some whispered among themselves, acknowledging the unexpected strength and insight brought by Elira's human companion. The idea that humans could contribute in ways previously unimagined was beginning to take hold. As the day drew to a close, Elira and Alex walked through the palace gardens. The alien flora glowed softly under the setting sun, reflecting the calm after the storm. Elira allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection, considering the challenges they had faced. "You have changed my view of what is possible," she said to Alex. "Not just because of your skill, but because of your courage, your observation, and your unwavering loyalty. Humanity, it has remarkable strength." Alex shook his head modestly. "It is not just humans. It is the combination of insight, trust, and action. You have led this effort with courage and wisdom. I have only contributed in the ways I can. Together, we made a difference." Elira smiled, feeling a deep sense of partnership. She realized that the trials they had faced were not merely obstacles, but lessons in leadership, strategy, and the value of collaboration. The experience had strengthened her resolve and sharpened her understanding of the complexities of governance and diplomacy. In the following days, Elira worked to restore normalcy within the palace and the empire. She ensured that security measures were strengthened, council members were briefed, and alliances were reinforced. Alex continued to provide guidance, his human perspective proving invaluable in navigating subtle political and strategic challenges. As the empire stabilized, Elira found herself reflecting on the journey that had begun with her return. She had faced threats, conspiracies, and the hidden dangers of palace intrigue. Through it all, she had discovered the importance of trust, courage, and insight. Alex's presence had been more than support. It had been a bridge between human ingenuity and Zyrathian tradition. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the palace, Elira and Alex stood together on the balcony. The city below was calm, the glow of lights reflecting on the crystal structures. Elira felt a profound sense of accomplishment, tempered by the understanding that challenges would always exist. "You have remained at my side through danger, uncertainty, and discovery," she said quietly. "I could not have achieved this without you. Humanity has shown me a new way of seeing the universe." Alex looked at her, his expression calm but sincere. "I remain at your side because I believe in what we can accomplish together. Humans have the ability to adapt, innovate, and act with courage. But it is your leadership, judgment, and willingness to act that made all the difference. Together, we are stronger than any challenge." Elira felt a warmth in her chest, a combination of gratitude, respect, and admiration. The partnership they had forged was more than strategic. It was a bond of trust, understanding, and shared purpose. The journey had tested them both, but it had also revealed the power of collaboration across species and the strength of human ingenuity in a galaxy of wonders and dangers. As the days passed, Elira continued to guide the Empire with renewed confidence. She implemented new strategies for diplomacy, trade, and defense, incorporating lessons learned from her journey and Alex's human perspective. The council and palace staff began to recognize the value of cooperation, innovation, and vigilance, and respect for humans grew steadily across the empire. Alex remained at her side, offering guidance, observation, and support. He taught Elira to anticipate challenges, to consider multiple perspectives, and to value ingenuity and adaptability. Their partnership became a symbol of the potential for understanding and collaboration between species, a living proof that courage, intelligence, and loyalty transcended differences. As the Empire entered a new era of stability and prosperity, Elira reflected on her journey. She had returned to a palace full of tension, uncertainty, and hidden threats. She had faced conspiracies, navigated dangers, and uncovered plots that could have destabilized her world. Yet through all of this, she had discovered the value of trust, insight, and human ingenuity. One evening, as the palace gardens glowed softly under the twin moons, Elira and Alex walked together. The air was filled with the gentle hum of alien creatures, the soft rustle of glowing leaves, and the distant sound of the city settling into night. Elira turned to Alex. "You have remained with me through everything," she said softly. "Not because you had to, but because you chose to. Your presence has changed everything." Alex smiled, a quiet, confident expression. "Humans remain at the side of those who act with courage, integrity, and purpose. But it is not only my choice, it is our partnership. We have faced danger, uncertainty, and deception together, and we have prevailed." Elira felt a sense of peace and determination. The Empire was safe, the conspirators had been exposed, and the value of human ingenuity and courage had been proven. She understood that the journey was never truly over. Challenges would arise, and threats would always exist. But with insight, strategy, and trust, even the greatest dangers could be met and overcome. As the night deepened and the twin moons shone brightly, Elira and Alex stood together, looking out over the city and the stars beyond. The future was uncertain, but it was full of possibility. And together, they would face whatever came next, proving that courage, intelligence, and loyalty were forces no adversary could ignore. In that moment, Elira understood the truth she had learned through the trials, dangers, and discoveries of her return. Humans were not merely observers or allies. They were innovators, problem solvers, and companions capable of changing the course of events through insight, courage, and determination. And as the palace lights reflected on the crystal gardens and the city below, Elira and Alex stood side by side, ready to meet the future with strength, wisdom, and the unbreakable bond forged through shared challenges. The Empire had been tested, and together they had proven that vigilance, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the most carefully hidden threats. The journey had ended, but the legacy of courage, intelligence, and partnership would continue to guide them, and the Empire, through every challenge yet to come.